line we were kind of introducing ourselves with initially was sort of jazz-tinged post-hardcore, which, whether that's like an accurate representation of what we do, I'm not sure, but you know, just high energy, kind of angular, quite textural, but like, you know, with like kind of a, I don't know, I was on a good roll then and I lost what I was saying. We started playing together in its current iteration about maybe about 18 months ago.
Oh, so it's fairly new.
Quite a new project, yeah. So I'd been playing with a few other kind of like a rotating cast of people for about 6 months prior to that, but once we kind of found the final form lineup as it is, that's it's been a nice form. It's been like reassuringly really receptive and like supportive, and you know, people have been just super cool whenever we've kind of presented ourselves and played anywhere. You know, either the people putting us on have been like kind enough to offer a set for us in the first place, which is always like, you know, we're so appreciative of that. And audience members are always like, I mean, there's probably a few people that didn't dig it, you know, but like a lot of people are quite intrigued and sort of, you know, like to tell us what they think it sounds like. And I've normally never heard of any of the bands they think it sounds like, so it's kind of cool to get put onto a lot of good music in that sense as well. But it's been really warm and receptive overall, I would say. I think it's such an essential part of just like music in general nowadays. I think like the past 10 years, I'd say, of like music, everything got really big and almost like blown out of proportion a little bit, you know, and everyone was chasing Spotify placements and playlists and all these things that kind of like over magnified what you're doing. And I think we're at the kind of apex of that now. And what we're seeing a lot more is people really valuing what goes on in small rooms with people, crowds of people that really want to be there and engage with stuff in a meaningful way. And I think that, like, you know, the punk scene always has been amazing at doing that and having really good, you know, morals and objectives that they're trying to achieve, whether it's awareness for things or like fundraising, or, you know, the scene I came from when I was younger, that was really integral part of it as well. And I feel like I lost touch of it for a long time, and it's been really amazing to like reconnect with that in recent years and sort of like see that it's still the same as it ever was, and people still share the same points of view and are willing to like invest energy and time into trying to make something special that doesn't just exist on the internet. It gives me a real spring in my step for sure, you know, to be like, you know, like we were just saying, played for Grapes of Wrath on Friday, and it was just such a brilliant night, and it's, you know, really energizing, I think, just to connect with people, share some really amazing music, find new bands, and, you know, just have those conversations and, you know, I think it's a really like enriching thing to do in life. That not that I didn't have it for a long time, but like it's spent in different areas. But I think it's been just awesome just to kind of feel the power of it again. I think it's just there's so many things you get from it. I think like interpersonal connection, where it's like kind of enforced because you're just in this situation, and like especially a situation like that where like people are friendly and will kind of just say what's up, and you hear conversations springing up everywhere, people meeting each other. But I think that like in today's world we're so blasted with just distraction all the time for like one thing or another. Social media, just life in general is just meant to like steal your attention. And environments like that, you have to invest the concentration, the energy, the mind power, the being there physically. You're investing in that, and I think that's a really important thing for people's like mindsets as a whole. Mm-hmm. Not to just have this like instant gratification, but like you had to travel in the rain to this place and it's hot in there and you have to queue to get to the bar, but once you're there you can really experience music in its like truest form with a bunch of other people that have made the same effort and are there to like dig in as well. Big MOs with Millpool has always been to sort of like, put emphasis on the things happening in between, the important dynamic parts of the music, but it's also to like embrace the, whether it's like an interlude with just the saxophone playing through a delay pedal or like, whatever it might be. I think it's definitely trying to present the music as like a whole sort of flowing listening experience, and I think there is a degree of patience that comes with that, where like I think it makes the intense bits hit harder if you've had to sit through a more subdued moment, and then also vice versa, the more subdued moments are almost like maybe like a welcome breather at times as well, to kind of like reset, experience things how they're meant to be heard the next time. I think it all plays its part. We live in like divided times nowadays, I think, more so than ever, and it's even more easy for people to become divided, like what we talked about before with like whether it's social media influence or like societal pressures, that sort of thing. So I think like, the objective of striving to have somewhere where like you kind of leave all that stuff at the door and you just exist in this space, are cool to people around you, and try and like do right by everybody and enjoy yourself. I think that's a really amazing thing to try to achieve. And like there's definitely been, with some of the promoters we've worked with over the past year or so, like diminishing returns. They definitely have a policy of like no one turned away on the door for like lack of funds, and I think that's a really awesome approach to have, where it's a testing time, and like for people to be able to still access what can be like a life-changing experience, or night of music like that. Like I'm sure you remember those times from when you were younger. I've definitely have those ones I hold on to of like that really changed my whole life trajectory. Some of those events. So to think that people aren't missing out on that just because you didn't have 15 quid for a ticket. I think that's like, you can't lose sight of that. But then it's just difficult when it comes to like balancing the books, and the venues need to sell alcohol ultimately, and finding a whole way around that. But I do see places opening up like Sister Midnight in Lewisham. I think that's a pretty inspiring thing to see happening, and hopefully something we kind of like see more of over the next few years. Scenes are really important as a whole, and like if people are engaging in a scene and giving time and energy to things, then it lifts everyone up as a whole. And I think like the individual success stories that come from that are like really important, not to downplay them, but I think it's just like those scenes existing is the most key thing. And but platforming individual people in that is really important too, I think. And but I think things make the most change when it all moves forward sort of like as one. There are always going to be the people who become like the flag bearers of a particular movement, but and sometimes it's the people you didn't expect who are going to be those people as well, so that's always, it's exciting to see how it all plays out. Like I said, I think these are like particularly difficult financial times for lots of people at the moment. But I think there's an element of that where it's more difficult, especially for younger people. Your younger years are generally a bit scrappier, and you're having to, by hook or by crook, find ways to go out and enjoy yourself. So I think like being aware of that is really important. But also I would hope that like as a community, as a society, people are like a little bit more empathetic and like understanding of like what other people might be going through, and the greater good of the situation is for a room to be busy, there to be a crowd that's enjoying the music, and the energy exchange is complete with a band being able to play to a crowd that are receptive as well, and turning people away because they couldn't afford it is not very it's not very productive towards that goal. But also I do understand that people need to balance the books, and so that middle ground I think is a good place to be, where you can, it's kind of like the honour system, I think, and even if it ends up with being those that can, like those you're kind of paying for people that can't, if you can. Do you know what I mean? I think that's not a bad place to be either. factors at play there, isn't there? Of like what results in it being a good vibe in the room that night, you know, and the more in tune you can be with the people that are coming to your events and listen to them and, you know, keep the conversation going. I guess that's the only way you learn about all those reasons, you know, is like, oh, like security were heavy-handed, or like you say, bar was expensive, or like the room felt sterile, or the sound wasn't good, or whatever it might be. It's just trying to make these little incremental changes that overall becomes like a well-oiled machine. Really, truly, our goal is just to enjoy playing together and just continue to like just hold on to that, you know, time that we get to spend together doing it. I think that's like, you know, in everyone's busy lives, I think like it's a really needed outlet of like expression and energy, and that's like, it just has to be guarded, really. So I think that like MO, it's just keep playing together, keep writing together, keep gigging together, meet more cool people, get involved with more, you know, good shows, good promoters, you know, good people. I think that's the MO, really. Just you know, keep doing it. We don't really have any like delusions of grandeur, but we can find a sustainable way to just keep playing and releasing music, and hopefully it reaches people. Then that's fine by us. Number one is like just surround yourself with people that are maybe going to be on a similar sort of journey, and even if you're at a stage where like you don't fully know what that journey is, I think just having the reassurance that comes with people striving together to try and reach a similar destination is like so important for like staying on track, you know, and like, you know, hang around with people that want to be musicians and you'll be one too. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing to reach for. And then the other would be like, be open and adaptable to like, you know, areas that might come up that you can become a useful component of. Because I think like, you know, like a football team is, you know, often it'll be like the striker is the star player of a football team, but like, you know, it's a whole team effort, isn't it? You know, you need people that are gonna fulfill certain roles in order for things to reach that like upper tier. And like it took me a long time to figure out what my role was in that, and I had to try on a bunch of different hats, you know, that didn't really fit in the end. And eventually you kind of you'll find your niche, but just be open to what that niche is, and don't like close yourself off from any opportunities.